Okay, this is a bit of an odd combo. I've got the front master cylinder and the rear master cylinder connected because the piston in here was stuck. So I've just pumped this up a few times. Just a quick recap. In the previous video I couldn't get the rear brake master cylinder piston out even with high pressure air as it's locked solid. So I'm now using the working front master cylinder to apply more pressure, using hydraulics to push out the stuck piston. I hope that makes sense. So now we can extract that. And you can see there the seal had completely crumbled apart, I think. Anyway, we'll take this apart, clean it, and I'll inspect what the bore is like and see if it's badly damaged. The cylinder looks quite shiny and smooth, so I think this is probably usable. There's a bit of corrosion right down the bottom there. It's difficult to focus on that, but that's not an issue. It's mainly just the bore. You need to just check there's no major scoring. Looks like a little bit there maybe, or was it just a shadow? I think it's a shadow reflecting. Yes, I think we could reuse this. The trick will be though, this is the old piston and seal. Difficult to get that to go in the groove, because what's going to happen is just going to put the seal in backwards, which is what you don't want. So I'm going to have to come up with some way of being able to get that in there easily. You can see you can almost get everything in bar the last smidgen. And if I just push on that, that's going to just push it in backwards. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of like adapter which I can slide on over the seal and then push it into the piston a bit easier. I have to work that one out. So order a new one of these, clean this up, paint it, put it back together. So same as before, I used the master cylinder to pop these out as far as they'll go, split them. Now this is the front caliper right hand side one, offside. So you can see here the direction of the pad spring, I suppose you call it, to apply a little bit of tension on the pressure on the pads, stop them rattling. So that's that way around. Whoa, you can see why you can see why you want to clean this stuff out. That is just crud accumulated over the years near the the outlet or inlet for the oil. Yeah, so these need a good clean. Pull out the seals, should be good. This is the other caliper. So another reason to take these apart is they're just full of sludge right in here. There's no way you're going to flush that out. So good reason to pull these apart. So now I've just got to pop those pistons out. So last bit to take apart, and this is again for my reference only. This is the, I suppose, your union. I don't know what you call it. Manifold, maybe. Yeah, brake manifold. Anyway, the incoming from the master cylinder comes all the way down there, and that locates underneath like that. And then this would be the right hand caliper coming down is on the bottom. The left hand or inside caliper is on this side and at the top, and they fit like that. So in between this protrusion and that one. Hopefully that makes sense. So just before I sandblast these, I've blocked up all obviously the sensitive holes, etc. With bolts and an old bleed nipple and tape over the ends. Obviously you don't want to get the tin sandblast in here, so I've just made up an aluminium plug that's quite a tight fit on in there. That'll protect that. I mean, you could just use an old, if you're replacing the pistons, you could just do the same with that. Drop one of those in. But there's still a risk that the blast material could get in there, even though it's quite a snug fit. Alternatively, you just tape it all up. But anyway, this is good because it's got I just put a lip over the edge, so it prevents the media from getting in there, and I'll just hold it like that. Blast it, turn it over, repeat. We should be good. This is the rear caliper, and there's obviously two grooves for your outer and inner seal, and unfortunately there's a lot of corrosion in there. In fact, no matter how much I was scrubbing with a plastic brush, I wasn't getting out this corrosion. As you can see, if I'll zoom in a bit, all that white powder is basically causing the seal to bulge, and that's probably why the pistons were jammed, because this is just building up inside the seal in the groove there, and pushing outwards onto the seal itself and then onto the piston. So I'm taking my time and just very carefully getting rid of all this basically detritus as much as I can. Obviously this inner groove is not a bearing surface. That surface is, so you don't want to be touching that. Temptation is to get a drill in, a wire drill, and just go in there. To be honest, for the outside, which is pretty much the same, I have got a little Dremel wire brush. It's quite soft, but I don't know if this is actually going to hold a seal or not. It could be a write-off, but we've got this far. I think we'll just keep cleaning this detritus out till it's spotless, and then the seal should sit more evenly in the ring. And likewise, you can see there's a lot of I call it corrosion. The aluminium is obviously corroding, causing a reaction, and there should really be a mirror finish all the way around, but it's pretty pitted or bubbling up. So again, I don't know what to do. If I just again put a very light brush around with a Dremel, soft Dremel brush, I might be able to knock off some of the high spots, but whether or not you start wearing away on the bearing face. This is the rear brake, and it's the worst one, but we'll see if we can recover it. If not, it's going to be a second-hand brake off eBay, I'm afraid, which are pretty common. I'll say common. They're interchangeable. These brakes are on a lot of all the RZs and RDs. Anyway, we'll keep chiseling away, literally, and see if we can get that nice and clean. So these are all just blasted out now, so all good. You can see where I had the tape, so it does protect. There's nothing gets in there, and there's no damage in there with the plug. Same for the other side. All good. So we'll give this a thorough clean now to make sure there's absolutely no chance of any media being left behind. So actually, in the end, instead of using a wire brush, I just got these are really mild Scotch Brights or whatever they are, for washing up. They're not even industrial, they're buy from the supermarket, and that was enough. Just took a while just to get or polish up that surface, and I hope it hasn't removed any of the aluminium. Time will tell. The other ones, the front ones, are in good nick, so there's nothing needed to be done. Still needed to clean out those grooves, but yeah, the rear one is pretty, there was corrosion in there, and probably why the pistons were stuck. With the grooves, I just got this little Dremel, tiny little brush, copper brush, that's quite soft, and it's just enough you can sort of locate in the groove, just to get rid of all the rubbish. You can see that it's still, it's picking up crud with all the crumbs on the bottom. So anyway, these are good enough now, I think, and we'll give them another wash and put them in the blasting cabinet. Just getting down to the last bits to sort of prep and clean, but you can see why you need to get these parts clean. You can see the crud in there. If you didn't get in there and clean all that, that's just going to cause you nightmares trying to bleed the brakes. So yeah, attention to detail with this sort of cleaning is very important. So that's spotless in there. Good job we've got the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll get some plastic brushes in there, chip away that looks like rust, but it's just, I think, dried out oil and sludge. Same goes for all these. See how the holes are almost blocked. Anyway, we'll clean them up, paint them up, plate them up. While I'm overhauling the brake, I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of improvement on this front brake lever. So this was stuck in there solid when I took it apart, and I thought, well, maybe that's a press fit, but then I looked at the parts diagram and it's actually a separate part, so it makes sense. And also I think these are slightly taller than the clutch, because what happens is when you pinch it up or bolt it up, it doesn't crush the lever, otherwise it would stick. So it pivots about that bush. Problem is this bush is quite loose and you've got a lot of play, so that's actually measuring about 9.8 mil. So this is a 10 mil drill, and you can see even with that it's got a lot of play, which I don't like. So what I'm going to do is probably drill this out, and also it's probably worn uneven, like concave. So I'll just drill this out by a millimetre to 11 mil, and then machine up a new one of these. So it's just a snugger fit. I think what happens over time, this is only aluminium, or I'm still not sure if this is aluminium. To check that, whether or not these are magnesium or something, because I just think aluminium would be too soft. Anyway, yes, but still it's a soft metal and it wears away quite quickly. Whether or not this would be better with a brass, I don't know. Brass bush. It could mean that the brass wears out just as quick. Who knows? So I'll just drill out, machine up a new one of these and make it a bit less sloppy. So it's a bit of a tricky one to clamp. So there's a bit of a janky setup, but it's in there pretty solid, and I've just put in the 10 mil drill just so now I'm square on the existing hole. So that's good. So now I just substitute for a 13 mil. I mean substitute for a 11 mil. So all the parts are clean and prepped and painted. So most of these parts were just spray painted with enamel, black enamel. There's a few olive drab ones where obviously I zinc plated them and then dipped them in the olive drab passivator, so it sort of keeps it looking original. And the bolts, like the brake hoses bolts, these were in a black passivator, so zinc plated again and dipped in the black, and that's come out quite well as well, so that's quite a good finish on those. I'm pleased. And obviously the little fiddly things like these little clips, you name it. So yeah, now all I've got to do is put them together. And this is how I do my springs when I'm plating. So I just pull the spring apart on a little jig so that the obviously the plating process can get through the coils, and it comes up quite nice. So I've machined that out a little bit as on the milling machine. I've made up a new bushel spacer and I've actually plated it. So that's now quite a nice snug fit on there. Like I say, it just needs to be slightly proud of the top and bottom. And then that can go in here. I won't do it all the way up. But now it's not slopping around in the wind, and it's still, you know, nice and smooth, but it's not sloppy anymore, which is good.